Hey, everybody, this is Dennis Brown, former San Francisco 49er and Super Bowl champ. I'm here on the 49er Weekly Show, The Grueling Truth, with Dexter and Matt.
Welcome, everybody, to another edition of the 49ers Weekly Show on the Grueling Truth Radio Network, brought to you by Replenishing Technologies and MyBookie.ag. I'm your host, Matt Andruscavage, and I'd like to welcome in my co-host at this time, former 49ers running back, Dexter Carter.
Hey, Matt. Great to be here as usual, man. Talking another exciting weekend of 49er football.
Well, it's never not exciting. Just got to find a way to stop falling so short, right?
Hey, absolutely, man. And we're going to come up with that formula very, very soon. These games that, you're losing by two and 3 points, we said eventually they're going to figure out how to win them. And I think Kyle did, in my opinion, a move forward for the future when he, gave Beathard, as we had talked about last week, a chance to grow with the team, to develop with the team. If, we're going to be losing, we might as well develop with the quarterback of the future right now. So I think that move speaks volumes.
Right. The 49ers, they kind of came out a little flat. I think there was a little bit of disappointment. I think a couple things happened during the week, and, it's the third game of a long road trip. And so sometimes I think you can come up a little bit flat in those situations, and they kind of did that. But then there was some adjustments made, some changes made, and so we'll definitely get into that. Let's start with the rundown a little bit. I think one of the big shocking pieces of news this week was the release of NaVorro Bowman. I think that took its toll a little bit. I know on the fans, I think there were some players that were surprised, but looking back now, they're saying he's kind of a liability in pass coverage. He's not running as well. I know he's been missing tackles. He can still tackle like crazy, but I know there were some missed tackles and just some things that caused the coaches to, kind of pull him aside and say, hey, we gotta talk. What's going on? How you feeling? And then, they gave him some reduced playing time, and he kind of came out and was a little upset about that. So I think there was a few moving parts in that situation.
Yeah, this is one thing that we didn't touch on last week because nobody saw it coming. But if you think back, he hasn't been who he was, but I thought, he was still getting back into the groove of things, and then a new dynamic with Foster coming over and them being a great duo there. But when he continues not being what he was, and then behind the scenes, they're questioning whether he's really healthy or not. And then when you question a player, don't always take it kindly. And when the player says, hey, I'm fine, I'm going to get back to what I was, and the team knows that it's growing with younger players, and we're not winning. So, we are moving in a different direction. And then the player, disputes that, it gives you reason to say, hey, you know what? Hey, we're not winning anyway, so let's go ahead on and part ways. And unfortunately, that's what they did. NaVorro did some great things for the 49ers, and I don't think it'll ever be forgotten. But it's very seldom that the ties between team and players go and the divorce happens, amicably the way it should. It didn't happen with Joe Montana, didn't happen with Ronald, didn't happen with Roger Craig, didn't happen, with a lot of great players. So it is what it is. I think, we have to say, hey, he had a great career with the 49ers, and, respect him for that, and respect the fact that, he feels he still has it and wants to go on and play. So the best thing was to release him, to give him an opportunity for who he wanted to play for. And I'm sure he just didn't come out and say, well, I want to play for the Raiders. I think him living in the Bay Area and have an opportunity to just go across the bridge and play for the Raiders was just better for his family. It's not that, he wanted to go to the enemy of the 49ers. He did what was best for his family. So I say we all move forward, let him have, continue to get healthier and, and play better as, as his career moves on. and let the 49ers continue to develop, with the youth movement that, they're moving towards.
Right. You touched on a lot of important things there. I think, from what the reports are coming out and saying is, he kind of wanted he requested a little bit of a trade there. The 49ers were looking for a trade partner for about a week. They found one in the New Orleans Saints, but the Saints only wanted to offer like a 6th or 7th round pick. And then NaVorro didn't want to play there. So the 49ers did right by him by not quibbling over the opportunity to get a very low round pick, but rather give him the opportunity to catch on where he would like to play and do right by a guy who's done a lot for the organization. And so I'm pleased that that's the kind of organization and culture that John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan are cultivating. And I hope that sends a message to players that, look, we're going to do right by you. We're going to be fair with you. I don't think they just pulled him in and said, hey, you're not going to play much for us, or you're no good anymore. I think they wanted to kind of pick his brain, figure out where he's at, and but like you said, he probably didn't take too kindly to that, and they're not winning anyways. So I think they just felt it was just best for both parties if he move on. And like you said, I think you're absolutely right about the Raiders. He just goes across the bay. He does not have to move anything. He's got kids. He doesn't have to change anything in his life right now other than his jersey.
Absolutely. So you mentioned one thing, too, I'm just going to point on is I hope that sends a message to the younger players. It's a fairly young team, and for John Lynch, to be able to do that, it does send a positive message, and not only looking out for the team, but looking out for the players themselves. So hopefully that will speak volumes to these players as they develop and bring the 49ers back to, the culture that we're used to.
Right. So then they had to complete the third of a 3-game road trip this week in Washington. Got out to kind of a rocky start. The Redskins do have a good offense. Kirk Cousins, I think a lot of fans, the coaches aren't saying this, but the fans know that there is an evaluation process going on right now with Kirk Cousins. I think they wanted to kind of see him in action, and Cousins definitely excelled in the first half. They got out to a 14-0 lead and then a 17-0 lead, and Brian Hoyer was just ineffective. And so right before halftime, Kyle Shanahan made the move when Hoyer was 4 of 12 for like 30-some yards to pull him and put the rookie in. And he played well pretty much right away, and they were able to get a touchdown before the end of the first half.
Right. There's a couple of key things that happened in this game, but first I'm going to point on the move with Beathard was needed, and I think it was the right thing for the organization. And the right thing and the realistic thing is to realize that the possibility of Kirk Cousins' availability next year is important too. But what it does is it gives Beathard, because you don't know really where you're going to go. You don't know what Kurt is going to do next year. So you develop where you're at. And Beathard, I think, is developing and needs the time to become a better quarterback. Now, if Kirk Cousins comes, then you know what it does. It creates a great battle in training camp next year. And whoever doesn't win the job, you've got a great starter, and you got a very, very capable backup. So I think that situation will work itself out. Now, in this game, Kirk Cousins showed, why he is who he is, and Beathard showed how he's developing. But the game went the way it went because the defensive line, one, uncharacteristically didn't play like we know they're capable of playing. We knew that there was a couple of injuries, not major, I don't think, but injuries to that defensive line. Then, as we talked about in this last week, is watch out for Chris Thompson. And Chris Thompson made, he made it known that, hey, you guys better account for me. And, he had some good plays. So, and then, and we're going to get on the defense later, but there were some good things that throughout the game started to, fall in the favor of the 49ers that gives you hope, again, of the future, whether it was from the defensive back, work of Robinson, the future really looks bright.
Yeah, there's definitely some areas where you can see the potential. You can see kind of how this is going to shake out. I think one of the other reasons for NaVorro Bowman's expendability was Ray Armstrong has been playing better lately. He came up with the interception against the Colts. He's making plays, and when you pair him with Reuben Foster coming up, that I think the 49ers feel they have a good inside linebacker core for the future, and they will be getting Malcolm Smith back next year to play the weak side linebackers. So, seeing Ray Armstrong out there is good. DeForest Buckner is still playing very well. He's the one guy that just plays great every week. It was good to see Jimmy Ward make a play. Rashard Robinson had a good game, like you mentioned. So you can see the things on the defense. There were definitely deficiencies. It's like Chris Thompson really burned them. I thought Vernon Davis made a couple of really good plays. They've got a lot of talent over there, and it's on the road, and they've been on the road for a few weeks. So, these things will happen. But what was good to see is that even though they got themselves into a hole, they were able to fight back and get back in the game.
Right, and being on the road in these few games, like we talked about before this road trip began, that how it could be. It could be devastating just because you're on the road for so many games. But I think more so than anything, it brings the team closer together, especially when you're developing such as the 49ers are. So I think when they go back home, they're going to be a lot closer team and a better team to play in front of their fans.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And so they're coming home this week, and so we'll be getting into the Dallas game a little bit later. In the second half, there were times where Beathard looked like he was kind of getting into a rhythm, and then all of a sudden some very inerrant throws, characteristic of a rookie, and we know that's going to happen. So it's his first game. It's going to take a little bit of time to get used to playing with the first team and getting those reps in, getting that practice time in, getting that rapport with the wide receivers. But it was good to see Aldrick Robinson make a couple of plays. He was able to get behind the defense for a 45-yard touchdown, the first of Beathard's career. And, so the defense was able to make some plays. Now, we're all going to be talking about the offensive pass interference at the end, but it would be very unfair and unwise to not point out that Vernon Davis had a fumble where his arm hit the ground. His forearm is clearly on the ground before the ball comes out. The ball comes out. Jimmy Ward picks it up and takes it all the way back to the Redskins' 1-yard line, and then Carlos Hyde punches it in. So we can't forget about that play. That was a really botched play. The officiating there's no excuse for that. I think at the time 49er fans are going, woo, wow, we really got away with one there. I'll take it. But then at the end, when it's 26-24 and the 49ers are driving with just about a minute left, and then they called just the worst offensive PI that you could call. You can't call a guy for picking when he's the intended receiver. I don't think I've ever seen that before. So that was just a really, really unfortunate call, really, really bad one, and it takes them out of field goal range and took away the chance to win. So the Niners definitely did some things to beat themselves by Robbie Gould missing a key field goal that could have been the difference in the game. They did get away with one with a fumble, and they didn't play all that great in the first half. So you can't just pin the whole thing on the refs. But it was really tough at the end when you battle all the way back and you put yourself in a position to win a game on the road, and then to have it end like that's just got to be tough, especially since this is not the first time it's happened this year.
Yeah, and there's been a number of conversations we've had about calls from the refs this year, but you can go back in this game and you can pick a few plays by players. You can pick a few calls by refs that can go either way.
Right.
So you've got to be able to take advantage of every possession, do what you're supposed to do, so you can minimize those things that can negatively impact the game that others control, like refs, or turnover, something of that nature, because some you're going to get and some you're not going to get. So it is what it is. I think still it gives light at the end of the tunnel that, one, we started out bad, we didn't focus, however you want to put it, but at the end of the day, they put themselves in a position to win. And, again, it gives optimism for the future. Now you've got Beathard at quarterback who now can get 100% of those reps. that Hoyer was hitting in practice. Now the timing with the receivers will be a lot better going forward, and those mishaps that you saw that we said, man, how can he miss that? That was, now he'll start hitting those more efficiently, in my opinion. So this practice time is going to be great for Beathard and these receivers.
Yeah, I'm excited to hear how it's going to look in practice. I'm excited to hear about the first team reps and the chemistry that's getting built with the wide receivers. And from what I heard, it sounded like the team is really rallying around him, and they want to see him succeed. It was time for a change. Hoyer had his chance. I think there were times he looked pretty good, but a lot of it he really didn't look very good. Didn't make a lot of very good decisions. I'm glad that they gave him some opportunities, but it's time. Based on the record and the way things have gone, the way the season's kind of shaken out, I'm glad to see Beathard in there, and I'm pretty confident that he's going to play a lot better this week against the Dallas Cowboys, who don't really have a great defense. So it'll be interesting to see how they attack that defense and what they do moving forward.
Right. And the one thing that I hope, one, the players, which I believe they will, and surely the fans, one, don't look at the deficiencies of Hoyer, because we all knew that those were there when we brought him over. We knew what his role was. So let's not look at this situation as a negative, because he is who he is. But he did at that moment in Kyle Shanahan's, thought process, gave us a better chance, to win. So the timing is right to make the change. I still say Hoyer is a quality stuff right now, so he's nothing different than what we thought he was coming in. So, hey, I hope he keeps his positivity up, and if we need to fall back on him for whatever reason, you know what, he'll get us through the season. But I still think Beathard, was put in at the right moment, and let's just hope that, one, he'll stay healthy, and he'll go out there and maximize his opportunities and be an efficient quarterback, which I think he will become moving forward with all this great practice time that he will have with the first team.
Yeah, I think fans are excited to see him out there, and I think having Brian Hoyer behind him, that's a quality backup. This is a guy who's he's a capable starter, and like you said, we all knew his weaknesses and his inefficiencies and deficiencies going into this. Nobody thought he was going to be an all-pro quarterback. They thought, given the right circumstances, he'd have a chance to do well. But it is what it is. They're moving on. They've already named Beathard the starter. So it's going to be interesting to see how this all works out. So practice is going to be interesting. There were a few injuries, some changes that are going to be made to the roster. Defensive end Eric Armstead broke his hand. He's going to have surgery, so he's going to be out until at least week 15, because they'll probably put him on injured reserve, and he would be eligible to return week 15 if they pulled him off of there. But that could end his season, which he would join Ronald Blair and Tank Carradine on the defensive line as guys who are on IR. So that's unfortunate to see. He's wanted to see him stay healthy this year, but it'll just bring more reps for Solomon Thomas, give him more of a chance to show what he can do and develop. So there's Eric Reed and Reuben Foster are going to be coming back, so that's a good thing. It looks like Carlos Hyde has been completely removed from the injury report, so that's good. Hopefully his hip is feeling better, and just going forward, they should be getting guys back, and they should be able to wreak some havoc against the Dallas Cowboys, which we'll talk about in a little bit.
Absolutely, and those injuries that you mentioned, it's very, very important, one, not to rush these guys back, because these guys are the future of the 49ers. And specifically focusing on the defensive line, those guys, Armstead, Lynch, you know what, regardless of when they come back, them coming back and all of a sudden, now they may go on a roll and win let's say hypothetically win the rest of these games, just by some way, and then all of a sudden be in a playoff position. And we don't think that's going to happen. I think the most important thing is make sure these guys are healthy, because what the 49ers are doing this year, I'm telling you, it is positioning them to wreak havoc in the NFC West for next year. So if these guys can't come back to week 15 or maybe not even come back, you know what, let's make sure they're 100% healthy, because once this season ends, everything from the draft to OTA to the summer to preseason is predicated on how successful this team is going to be next year and how converting those 2 and 3 point losses into 2 and 3 point plus wins. So now, yes, I want to win so bad. You know how we 49ers want to win.
Yep.
But, man, if we can have not a crystal ball, but just an oversight of what we are building, we have a lot of optimism going forward. I know we throw that word optimism around a lot. We throw the word process around a lot, but you cannot have success without those two words. And I think we're doing the right things as an organization.
Yeah, and this is it's the most difficult part of the process. It's the most difficult thing to be optimistic when it looks like there's not a lot to be optimistic about. But there is. And I think if people knew, if we had that crystal ball and we would ask every 49er fan, would you take a 2-14 or 3-13 season this year in exchange for an 11-5, 10-6 season next year and a possible playoff run? I think everybody would take that. And so hopefully
Absolutely.
They're going to build upon this. They're going to have another draft like they had this year. I mean, they've got some good players in this draft. George Kittle is a quality tight end going forward. Beathard is potentially a really good quarterback going forward. Matt Breida, they got him as an undrafted free agent. Solomon Thomas, Reuben Foster. I mean, look at the quality of players they picked up in this draft to go with the talent that they already had, and you're going to add that $100 million in salary cap that they could go out and get some veterans. So there's so much optimism. There's so many good things to look at, and they're being competitive in these games. Hopefully they can find a way to win one, and I think that would calm a lot of things down in the minds of many. But they got a game coming up here against the Dallas Cowboys, and it's not going to be easy because Dallas has a really good offense. So it's going to be up to the defense. What do you think are some of the keys in this game?
Well, Dallas can't be happy with where they're at right now. I still think they're one of the top teams in the NFC because that offensive line they've got, one, they're still the same offensive line as last year. You know, going back and forth with Ezekiel Elliot and will he play, will he not play, all of that, I think, personally affects the team. They still, they got Dez Brown outside who Robson's playing, much better ball at the right time. But I'm going to tell you what, what is it, number 11 or number 10?
Oh, Beasley?
The other receiver for Dallas.
Yeah.
I tell you what, hey, he runs that slot the way the slot guys run at New England. He knows how to get open, so we got to really, really focus on that guy in the slot, on his motions and his movements on offense, and that's going to be key over there. But Dallas is still a team to be reckoned with, so we cannot, as a defense, go out there, and I don't think we will. I think based on our health and our capability, we're going to go out there and play well. And, man, what a game is great for Foster to be coming back because he's going to be needed. But it's going to be key from a Dallas offensive perspective and how we will play them, on defense. So that's going to be the most key thing for me. Beth is going to continue to develop, and hopefully, he can get the ball to Garcon and those guys, and Hyde and Breida will be important in this offensive run game. Hey, that helps Beathard out. To get that run game going and be productive, then that will open up the passing game. So I think just the basics overall is important in this particular game. There's not one thing I can point at. When you have a new quarterback such as Beathard, you have got to be able to give him a running game to give him a chance in the passing game.
Yeah, no question about it. The 49ers have to be able to run and take pressure off of Beathard. They need to work out a play action. That is the strength of the Kyle Shanahan scheme, and it's something that Beathard should be able to do fairly well coming off a pro-style offense at Iowa. I think he's well suited for this. And so, but if he can get assistance from a run game and get protection, it's just gonna speed up his development. They've got quality receivers, so hopefully he's able to do some damage against this Dallas defense, who to me is just not the same as even last year. I mean, they've got Jalen Smith at linebacker. Sean Lee could be coming back, but that secondary is very vulnerable, and I think they can find some success there. So it's really going to come down to how well the defense is going to stop that run game. Because even if let's say Ezekiel Elliot doesn't play, they still have Darren McFadden and they still have Alfred Morris.
Yeah.
Those are two good running backs. So it's going to be tough either way, but so you've got to find a way to turn off that run game and get pressure on Dak Prescott. He's very good at getting the ball out quick. You brought up Beasley. I think Beasley is probably the most important guy other than maybe Jason Witten to cover, because Prescott likes to get that ball out fast, and those are usually the two guys that he looks for. So if they can find ways to cover those guys and get pressure on him so he can't make those deep plays to Bryant and Terrence Williams, I think they'll put themselves in a chance where they can win it.
Absolutely. And you mentioned the two most important guys on offense. I didn't mention Witten, and it wasn't because of neglect. It was, it wasn't even an oversight. We know Witten is key, in any second and third and short or third down in general. Witten is going to be looked at. And I do think, Robinson on Bryant is important, but not as important as, Beasley and Witten. Being able to control those guys, because they're going to get third down conversion, those are the two guys that they're going to go to. And overall in this game, I think, one, as an offense for the 49ers, 1 to 15 yards is going to be very, very important in this game. How Beathard works within 15 yards, and that intermediate routes are very, very important. He needs to take his chances down the field when they're there. But this is about moving the ball methodically down the field, in my opinion. And this is the way you convert the third downs and give yourself a chance to control the clock, the time of possession, keep the ball more than Dallas. Because if Dallas has the ball more than us, just football analysis and what has happened this year shows that the 49ers will be in trouble. I think, again, it goes back to the basics of football. From third down conversions, don't put yourself in tough situations, with penalties. Those kind of things there will destroy you. And the big one other thing for Dallas and our defense is do not allow big plays. That could be a bigger killer. But again, the 49ers have done well so far, and you got to give them credit for positioning themselves to be in these games at the end. So I don't see these coaches and players all of a sudden changing their MO and not allowing themselves to be in the game in the end. What we hope is that the beginning of the game will change now, and it will stay true to some of these points that we're making that I guarantee you Kyle Shanahan is pointing out. When they get that fixed, I think, one, it's going to be the other side. Other teams are going to be 3+ points down and trying to come back and beat us. And then our defense, which is the strength of our team, will be able to hold them off. So hopefully that will start this week in Dallas, with Dallas coming to town.
Man, you totally hit it on the head. I think the key to this game is starting off strong. And we talked about that a couple of times. If they can play good in the first half and not get down and, not have these 3-3 or 6-3 or 6-6 games in the first half, and certainly you don't want 17-0 where they're down. But if they can get off to a lead and get maybe a big impact play out of a guy like Foster to energize the crowd, that will just go such a long way. And in the second half, that's where you can feed that run game and really grind out that time of possession and protect the ball, protect the lead. That's the kind of thing that needs to happen. What I'm probably most worried about in this game is penalties, and especially on the defensive side of the ball, where like 3rd and 6, 3rd and 7, and all of a sudden there's a illegal contact penalty or something that keeps the chains moving, some kind of a pass interference penalty. And then I'm also concerned with the big plays. I am concerned with like Terrence Williams streaking down the sideline on a broken coverage and making a big play. If they can avoid the penalties and the big plays like you talked about, that is probably, to me, the biggest key in this game, because I think that's where Dallas can really, really hurt the 49ers.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great game to come back and give the 49er fans, I think, a good show. They're very deserving of it, and I believe the fans do see this team fighting for them. I really do.
Yeah.
You know, at the end of the day, you come back to leadership, and I believe Kyle Shanahan, we've been seeing him come from behind. When he gets a lead, his game plan changes, and he seeks to destroy it. I'm excited about seeing that Kyle Shanahan, because I don't think he's been able to really execute as a whole, collectively, as an offense, the type of offense that he foresees. And it will resemble closely to what he's had in the past. But I think this is new ground for him, being able to have to, call plays from the positions that he's calling, with some of the deficiencies at some of the positions, especially at quarterback. But, man, when he unloads his playbook, I think it's going to be an aerial and ground attack like nobody's seen. So, get your seatbelts ready. I think it's coming sooner than we think.
Yeah, no one wants to see that more than us. I mean, we've talked about that. I think Kyle Shanahan he's one of these guys. He is respected across the league. He's an offensive genius. The guy knows what he's doing. He's got incredible schemes. You can see even when there's missed plays, when the quarterback doesn't always hit the guys that are open, when you see what the play is and how it attacks the defense, you can tell he's dialing up a lot of the right stuff. And he is a very aggressive coach. And once some of this stuff comes together, I think they're going to be able to put that upper 20s, low 30s up on the board, and that is going to be fun to watch when that starts happening.
Right. He has the demeanor that this particular 49er team needs. And one thing a coach has to have is the confidence of his players in him and his staff, because you got to give them all credit. They have confidence in him and this staff. And, man, it's great seeing this young coach, continue to blossom, even on the end of losing right now. He's losing, but he still is gaining respect, across the league, and more important than anything is across this organization and this team.
Yep. So hopefully we're going to see a lot of that. The only prediction that I'm going to make in this game is that I will be yelling to the point of losing my voice because I will be in the stands.
That's right. Hey, man, enjoy this game, man. And I was hoping I could come out there, and who knows, man, I might pop up at the last minute. I'm not really sure. But what a great game, to be at Levi Stadium watching. So surely enjoy. Come back next week and give us a firsthand outlook of what you saw.
Will do. I'm excited about it. I'm excited to see it from a different perspective than just on TV. I'm excited to see what the energy is going to be like in the stadium after coming off a long road trip, being in these games, having a guy like Reuben Foster come back. So it should hopefully be a very unique game, and hopefully it'll be one where we can look back and go, this was the first win of the season, and this is when the 49ers became the 49ers of the future.
Absolutely. Looking forward to it. Hopefully there's a great outing, for the team. Just do all the things that we know as an evaluator and as a coach what needs to be done. And we keep reiterating it. But, hey, as an offense, and for the clock, convert on third down, score touchdowns in the red zone, but we'll take field goals. But, touchdowns is what separates and puts you in a position to where you don't lose by 2 or 3. You score those touchdowns, and that will fix that. And defense, just keep improving, moving forward to do what you do, excite the crowds, and get this defense fired up.
No question about it. So everybody, be sure to check out thegruelingtruth.net for articles, podcasts of all sports alike, but especially 49ers football. And hope you get a chance to enjoy the game on Sunday. And we'll definitely be back next week with analysis and also all kinds of other stuff from inside the stadium. And hopefully we'll both be able to be there. But if not, we'll definitely find a time where we can do that. So, any final thoughts, my friend?
No, just good luck, Niners, and fans continue to hang in there, support the team. We'll keep bringing you hope what we feel is great analysis every week. Looking back at the previous game and looking forward to the one coming up. Just keep giving you great 49er football.
All right, everyone. Thanks for listening in. Hope to see you back next week, and go Niners. So for Dexter Carter, I'm Matt Andruscavage. You've been listening to the 49er Weekly Show on the Grueling Truth Radio Network, where the legends speak.